Welcome to the Newsweek Lead, listeners. We hope you had the best long weekend. Now, in the past 2 weeks, News 24's eagle-eyed journos have uncovered evidence that AI conjured up incorrect and misleading sources in at least two critical pieces of proposed government policy, one of which concerns the use of AI itself. The revelations have seen top officials suspended, and the DA, overseeing the two ministries where these policies were crafted, is now enforcing stricter review measures. We cross-check AI referencing in this edition with News 24's Ethan van Diemen and William Brederode next.
It's not the use of AI that I think we have an issue with.
Yeah.
It's the unethical, irresponsible use of AI, allowing some of the byproduct of that to end up in these official documents.
I fully agree with William. We need to just be better at it. And that's kind of what I hope people that make these decisions are taking from this. This is an opportunity for them to not just be embarrassed and appoint people and hope that the news cycle changes, but to actually interrogate their processes.
Later in our trending topic, Comic-Con Cape Town has grown significantly over the past few years, so much so they're eyeing an even larger venue for 2027. And finally, later in the show, we celebrate Ruth First's birthday on this day in SA history.
To know when the next episode drops, hit the like, follow, and subscribe buttons on our YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast channels.
In Roby's Pointless Braai Quiz, who's the Kaizer Chiefs legend who recently got a university's top honor? We'll give you that answer a little later.
This is The Lead, and this is the South African Story with your host, Graeme Robenheimer.
Moving to our top story today, joining us now in our Cape Town Foreshore studios. They're fresh from their long weekend soirees, are the absolutely brilliant journalists. My colleagues, climate specialist Ethan van Diemen opposite me, as well as budding business buster William Brederode. How's it, gentlemen? How's it, William? How are you doing?
Excellent. Fantastic.
Ethan?
How's it going, Graeme?
Yeah, man, can't complain. Look, let's get straight into this. I think a lot of people have been waiting for this discussion. Let's begin with you, William. How did you find out about the possible AI misuse or hallucinations in this draft national AI policy that was really much one of the biggest talking points in news in South Africa in the past 2 weeks? Congratulations on your exclusive. And how did you find out about this?
The most I can say is we heard through the grapevine that we should check out the references in the draft national AI policy. We had looked at it soon after it was issued for public comment, and we were told, have a look at these references. We started going through them, and it became apparent quite quickly through standard Google searches that we were struggling to find the source of the references that were written down there. We felt that wasn't enough because maybe our Google search was failing us. Not finding something through Google doesn't seem to be sufficient proof that it doesn't exist. And this is together, just to state it up early, with a journalist who was freelancing with us, Katarina Moser. We flicked through the references. Some of them were not purporting to be academic journals. They were submissions as part of an inquiry or online blog posts, but some were. And we found through looking up the journals that some of the journals were real. So they were existing journals, but we couldn't find the articles that purported to be in them.
Yeah, so you're finding the link in maybe Google Scholar, but you're not necessarily finding the direct reference.
The Journal of South African Philosophy. I'm not sure that's the exact name, but not in Section 42, Issue 6, not this article that is written down over here. So we thought the most conclusive way to prove that these journal articles either don't exist or that we're missing something is to reach out to those journals and say, we saw the following reference in the draft national AI policy. Can you confirm whether an article like this exists or whether an author like this exists? And through that process, several managing senior members, editorial members at these journals confirmed to us that either such an article had never been published, they can't find it either, or that the author that is claimed there also has never written an article in that journal. And through that process, in combination with one or two references where we could not find any evidence of the journal existing, we felt confident that there were fake citations in that document. Now, that still doesn't quite get us to the point where we know that they are AI hallucinations. To bolster that link, we reached out to experts, one of whom being Johan Fourie, economic historian at Stellenbosch, who, among other things, marks university students' essays. He probably knows what an AI hallucinated reference looks like.
Absolutely, because these days universities are using a little function called Turn It In, where you're given your academic papers, it checks it vigorously, you can't get past that.
Exactly. So there are these tools that help you, but I think there's also common patterns that AIs use when they hallucinate sources. And somebody who would have come into contact with these a lot would be
Johan.
Academics, Johan and some other academics. And after speaking to them, we were not 100% sure, but we were confident enough to link the fake citations to the possibility of it being an AI hallucination.
So how many references all in total for the draft national AI policy? How many of them turned out to be, quite clearly hallucinations based on all the cross-referencing that you've just mentioned up until this point?
There were 67 references mentioned in the reference list at the bottom. We felt confident to say that there were 6 which did not exist. There may well be more than that, but we felt we could say beyond a shadow of a doubt, we've got 6.
And let's just talk about the irony quickly for a quick hot second, because this is what everybody was sort of flabbergasted by. Notwithstanding, this is an outline of a legal policy document talking about the fair use implementation of AI and how that might affect, industries wholesale for years to come and how we should govern AI. And notwithstanding, there's also this fund which would help assist people who are negatively affected by AI as being one of the ideas put forward. The irony is not lost on us.
Well, that's it.
That AI hallucinations came up in the actual drafting of this document.
That's it. I mean, I think it would be fair to say you shouldn't be including AI hallucinations in any government policy.
Yeah.
But to include it in a policy document that is supposed to be setting out the principles by which we will regulate AI and proposes creating, among other institutions, an AI ethics board, the irony to then have used AI hallucinations supposedly as supporting material in drafting this document is what I think took this from being a massive blunder and something embarrassing to being just this whole nother level of issue.
And Ethan's shaking his head because he was directly inspired to look even a bit closer, and we're going to get to the Home Affairs debacle in the next short while.
The irony, it started out to me as just something at first that just seemed like the irony was so novel about what William and Katerina had revealed, right? And then when you look into it more, you see that it's not just this embarrassing faux pas with the references attached to an end of a draft policy document. It's far more important and meaningful. And that goes to underscore the importance of what William's done here.
Absolutely. Okay, so before you hit, send on this big article that comes out on the front page of News 24 and, many content creators I saw across social media over the course of the weekend were clamoring for your reporting, William. What was the official first written response from the DA Communications Minister, Solly Malatsi, somebody who's been part of the DA structures for the longest time? I mean, he's currently now considered a senior member of the DA. He's one of the cabinet ministers in the GNU. What was that initial response before you hit send on the article?
We initially got a response from the department through the department's spokesperson. So we we gave them about 24, 36 hours, and that was extended till the end of the day on Friday. And that response came back to say, and I quote, that these issues were referred to as minor referencing discrepancies.
Sure.
And the argument made in that short response to our queries, which, by the way, gave instances where we had picked up discrepancies and said, please, if this is not a hallucination, give us the source. We were told that these minor referencing discrepancies did not affect the substance of the article. We included that in our initial piece. Later the next morning, after our story had gone up,
I mean, it was all over X. Everybody was talking about this, yeah.
Minister Malatsi made a post on X referring to our reposting our story, indicating that he had instructed the Director General of the department to investigate the matter and to, I believe it was, take action against anybody found to be involved. The next day, on Sunday, he announced that they were withdrawing the AI policy. And he made an apology on behalf of the department and said that the department should have, this is not the standard expected of the department in charge of setting the standards for the digital economy. He stopped short of taking personal responsibility. The next morning, on Monday, he did a round of TV interviews, and I believe he did take some personal responsibility there.
Sure. Okay. And then I see Ethan, running through the newsroom corridors after William's reporting had come out, and stops me and goes, well, I've had a lot closer look at the Home Affairs White Policy document, and this is specifically on citizenship, immigration, and refugee protection. What, other than William's reporting, what made you think, Ethan, that I'm going to look a lot closer at what Home Affairs has been cooking up to see if we can't find any replication of what William found?
It wasn't anything that Home Affairs did. It was just by virtue of the fact that it was one of the more recent white papers to be cabinet approved and go out for public comment. So it was just suggested to me that what I did was in our meeting, I basically said, following on what William has done, he wasn't there at the time. That's the only reason I'm in this conversation, was because William wasn't there at the time. I was wondering to myself, what else? What other documents have similar issues? And then I decided to look. And this particular policy, this white paper, came out in December 2025. So we made the decision to sort of work back in time, starting at the present, or as close to the present as possible, just because that would be most likely to be affected.
Yeah.
And interesting what is interesting to me is I created an AI agent on our Media 24 in-house artificial intelligence tool token, and I created an agent specifically dedicated to identifying potential AI hallucinations in documents, and I plan to just use that to help me narrow it down to one or two documents that may have some issues, and then confirm that. And I only put in two documents, and by the second one was this immigration paper, and there were a number of red flags that highlighted to me that I then continued to look into along with Katerina, and so we found there's 148 references, and about 102 of them are iffy, shall we say.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so iffy, is it the same like in William's case? The journal might be correct, but the authors, who the hell is that? And there's no, substantive cross-referencing to say that a John Berman exists that actually wrote this paper that lives in this journal. So maybe the journal exists, but the paper doesn't exist, right? Similar examples?
Exactly, a bunch of mixes. So some references cannot be found at all on any, open source internet search engine. Others are characterized by mismatches in the authors' names or the titles, the publication dates. The DOIs or the links on some of them lead to a completely different study. And then, for example, some of them are silly mistakes. So Canada doesn't have a Department of Home Affairs, but it might say the DHA of Canada instead of the Home Office or something so those are some of the examples. So we thought what William was describing earlier on is the same thing. It's harder to prove that something doesn't exist than it can be to find evidence of something existing. So we were trying to establish whether this is a fabrication, an hallucination or not. And that was a challenge. And that also came to be how this story sort of unfolded, how it reached Home Affairs.
And then you went to the Home Affairs department, and then what was their first response? Did they go, we were already aware of this, or did News 24 make Home Affairs aware?
No, we definitely made them aware of this. So,
and this is obviously a ministry helmed by another DA sort of senior, member, Leon Schreiber, who's only come in for, quite good PR, quite good praise in more recent years for the work that he's been doing. Obviously, he's in a department which is a very hot topic issue to talk about,
yes.
Illegal immigrancy, etc., etc. What was the response?
One of the sources that had helped William on the story was unwilling to go on the record again and deal with media. And so what we thought is we'd approach the department directly and be tactful and ask, can you please provide us with these links or this reference study because we cannot find it. And so we gave them enough time. We were respectful enough to give them the time to
good right of reply
and everything. And mainly so that with the intention to publish, because we had established on one hand that we had a different expert who was able to tell us that no, this does seem to suggest AI hallucination, but then we were hoping that the department would come and say, no, here it is, maybe there's some sort of mistake, or the alternative, they'd say, we can't find this, we can't present it to you, we can't provide you with these references, which would also make our point. And then just as we were ready to start going with that, we're getting close to the deadline for our right of reply, and they responded with a statement saying that they had suspended two directors in the Department of Home Affairs. So they said they were alerted to it. They were alerted to it by News 24.
Wow. So in both cases, Ethan, William, you guys affected massive change in the Government of National Unity to a very technical perspective. You've affected change. You've pointed out something that wasn't correct.
And just to add, there's also, I think it was on Thursday last week, two senior officials in the DCDT have also been placed on
this is Malatsi's department.
Malatsi's department.
Wow.
And one further thing to add is in both of our articles, the ministers have come out to agree that the most likely explanation for the referencing issues or discrepancies is that they were AI hallucinations. So that none of those facts have been disputed in either case.
But that's quite telling.
That's a big problem. In the case with the Department of Home Affairs, right, they say that the issue is confined to the list of references appended to the revised white paper, and that these were generated and attached after the fact and not cited in the body.
Right.
So we found of the 148 references, there's about 102 that are questionable to us. We don't have a definitive answer. The department presented theirs as the findings as a result of an initial internal review. But then it makes you wonder, so where is the reference list then? What references were used in the drafting of this policy? What is the evidentiary basis upon which we are creating South African immigration law that's out for public comment at the moment?
100%. It makes me question and ask whether or not the draft policy was first created and then put through an AI tool to then create fabricated sources, because normally when you are a researcher, these days you can use AI software to keep, it's called a reference manager. So if you're studying your master's or you're doing a degree, you now can keep all your references imputed into one program, and then you can just citate as you go, and AI will formulate that into a nice nifty reference list at the end. But that counts on a lot of the human interface, right? So there's a lot of human involvement in that process. You have to check all your references by eye before you press that AI button at the end. So that makes me immediately question, did they put the document through the ringer first and then allowed AI to create what it thought was the references after the fact? That's the only way I thought, perhaps, as a possible way of them doing that.
Yes, and it makes me wonder. This is a cabinet-approved document, right? So it's, the president's office has had sight of this document. Were these sources added, as you say, after the fact to lend legitimacy somehow? Why would a cabinet-approved document be retrofitted with sources? At what point were they added? What version did the executive have sight of this document? And in what state was it?
William?
Let's take the most favorable possible assumption, which is that there was thorough sourcing throughout the rest of the document. The rest of the document was not generated by AI, and somehow in the process of drafting the reference list, there was these fictitious sources that were created. We don't know that that's the case, but that's the most favorable possible interpretation.
Yeah, I agree.
I still think that undermines the trust we as the public should place in that document. If you did not apply the level of oversight to ensure that the sources in support of government policy were real and cited real academic literature, even if that was all that happened, I think you've undermined the trust that the public will place in the process that you followed in drafting that regulation or policy or whatever it might be.
We now sort of also, from a political perspective, see who Jordan Hill-Lewis's eyes is going to be in the GNU, and it's Leon Schreiber, because he's basically told all the other DA ministerial posts, he's sent out an instruction to all of them to basically say, you need to double check all policy that gets created now, right, Ethan?
No, that's right. As in his capacity as the DA coordinator in the National Executive, he has essentially said that all the DA ministers in the GNU will be expected to now go through an additional verification process for the policy and drafting process and more generally. And then he also says he will raise it at the next cabinet meeting for this approach to be applied across the board with non-DA GNU ministers. Right. Which I think is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, they're taking accountability.
Yeah.
Which is
seemingly
fair enough. Seemingly, yeah. Okay, quickly. The AI draft national policy. So we don't know when that's going to be put back into the public realm for comment at this stage.
No, we don't.
And then the Home Affairs white paper on immigration.
So they've appointed two law firms to do a full review of all the policy documents since 2022, which is when they say the first commercial large language models were made available, to start looking into that. The department insists that the body of the policy continues to accurately reflect the government's position and is not materially affected. I'm not sure how South Africans will feel about that, but I know how I feel about that, and I'm not sure that makes much sense.
What is one of the outlines of that particular policy? What does it sort of speak to in terms of bringing about any change in regards to how we look at migrancy? Because we saw at the State of the Nation address, political parties across the spectrum are now, taking quite a bit of a hard stance in terms of illegal migrancy in South Africa today.
Yeah, some of it is about, migrants that perhaps have to enter a country before South Africa. It's the first country principle. I may be getting the exact name wrong, but essentially they need to seek refuge in a country that is safe, even if that's not South Africa. So the first country policy, so that's some of the things that they're looking at.
Politically speaking, it's been interesting to look at the comments. I get the general sense amongst a lot of the people is, and I'm sort of paraphrasing in inverted commas, so what, the ANC is worse. They're also sort of, guilty in this regard. And the ANC has been around for a really longer time, and they probably have also created legislation that is used or misused AI in its approach. Your just general comments, because we can never win, can we?
I just think I think it's the wrong lens. My lens on this is a canary in the coal mine for a wider issue where this new emerging technology is not being used with sufficient care. And this is a denigration in the trust that I will now place in future policy documents, supposing that there are future issues like this. We don't know how widespread it is. We don't know how many documents are being drafted in collaboration with AI or include AI hallucinations. We found 2. So this is not just government policy. What about legal cases? There have already been a couple of instances in South Africa where AI-generated case law was used in argument. What about reports that are supposed to provide an authoritative view on a sector or provide data? If AI is being used, or large language models are being used in a way where there's a lack of human oversight and these sorts of mistakes can creep in, the more important, wider conversation we need to be having is, what does this do in the trust we can place in these government, legal, and academic works that previously we treated perhaps with a higher expectation of their evidentiary proof that they have provided in support of their arguments.
You're right.
That's the argument.
Because the South
That's
African
issue.
government, for 30 years, South African government has had a great legacy of, and the ANC often gets applauded for great policy on paper. So, this puts a bit of a question mark over things, at least in the last 6 years. As you said, the language models have come into effect. Ethan, just a quick response on the other side of the coin. Obviously, you have people go, also commenting, and our readers going, well, look, the DA is just as complicit in its running of the government of national unity, and they can also be found out with a bit of egg on their face.
William said it perfectly. I can only add to what William said here, that it's a bigger issue. This is a transformative technology, and how it's used is important. I mean, we had the AI policy with AI hallucinations in it. It cannot be a more perfect example of the reason why we need to be careful. But for me, it once again, it comes down to the reason why these policies are out here. They're out there for public comment, for South Africans to have a say and determine the policies that will govern various aspects of their lives and affect them. And so what we have here is that we have documents that are potentially produced, they potentially are evidence-free policy making is happening here, right? We're not using any evidence potentially for policies that will affect hundreds of thousands, millions of lives. And then what that does is it becomes difficult for courts, for parliament, for the average citizen to scrutinize the rationale, the underlying evidentiary basis upon which we've created these policies that will affect so many people across the continent and in South Africa. And, just because people are perhaps very eager, not incorrectly, to make use of these technologies, but clearly not doing it in a very competent way.
Yeah, and so essentially, Ethan, what he just said was an addendum to what William just said, and he didn't use AI. I was watching him the whole time. We kept eye contact as he gave me that response, folks. Because, we at News 24, we have to provide sources, references, very good piece of journalistic work that we do. Like we spoke the other day, Ethan, your investigation took you a year to put together, bro. Yeah. We don't suck these things out of our thumbs overnight. That's what I love about journalism. It takes a lot of cross-referencing. Yeah, William?
Another point that I think we must make at some point here is I'm not against the use of AI by government officials, by academics,
in research,
by legal scholars. I think the whole world is scrambling to work out how we can use these tools in the most helpful way, where we take advantage of the opportunities they provide and mitigate against the risks. It's not the use of AI that I think we have a issue with.
Yeah.
It's the unethical, irresponsible use of AI and allowing some of the byproduct of that to end up in these official documents.
Yeah. Ethan, what would you tell to young Ethan starting out in journalism today? What would your tip be to him and how he tackles, even press releases at this point? We have to also scrutinize. Who's to say somebody didn't, put that through a ringer and didn't offer, concrete sources for the AI model to draw upon in drafting said statement?
The broader point is just not even trust but verify. Verify, I guess. Just make sure everything that you, especially now in this era of, generative AI, things can be mistruths, half-truths, misinformation, disinformation can be very compelling, look authentic, legitimate. We just have to do more to be able to prove what you're saying is the truth. And there are ways to do that. That's kind of our point, I would argue, is that it is possible to use these tools. It's just as it is possible to use a nail gun and not point it at anyone's face. It's still a tool that is useful, but it can be misused. And I fully agree with William. Like, we need to just be better at it. And that's kind of what I hope the authorities, the powers that be, the people that make these decisions are taking from this. This is an opportunity for them to not just be embarrassed and appoint people and hope that the news cycle changes, but to actually interrogate their processes. This is something that we should welcome to a certain extent, in the sense that we should welcome the productivity benefits of artificial intelligence, to say the least. But we should do it in a way that doesn't risk completely denuding our policies and documents of any potential value because we question the evidentiary basis. This is a chance for us to do much better and implement those policies and processes and safeguards for the future. This is not going away. And I don't think William would, and I certainly won't say that AI should go away.
Yeah.
We should just be better at using it, if we're going to use it.
It's a supplementary tool.
Yes.
William, final thought out of all of this. Follow-ups? Do all the GNU ministers need to quiver in their boots now?
I think we will gain some clarity going. Now, I'm certainly going to be checking the reference list a little bit closer with new policies which are released. So I don't think we've got a grasp yet of just how prevalent this issue of hallucinations cropping up in official documents is yet. I think give it some time and we probably will.
I'm going to point to the rail master plan as our latest one. We should have a little bit of close to that.
Let's not make unfounded claims against the rail master plan.
I'm just saying we need to look closer. I'm just following your
We can have a look at
here.
it. We can have a look
Just
at it.
as an example. You know me and trains. Anyway, final thoughts, Ethan.
No, you're totally right. You're saying that, but that's kind of what this situation has created. We do have to look at every policy now as potentially having the markings of AI hallucinations and other fabrications. And that's, my suspicion is that there's more. I don't yet have the evidence, but that is my suspicion. And I'm sure if we do find out, you'll find out here first.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, gents. I really appreciate
Graeme.
it. Have a great day.
Thank
Thanks,
you. You
Graeme.
too.
Trending topic.
Shifting to our trending topic, well, this year's Cape Town Comic Con was undoubtedly better and bigger. In fact, so much so that organisers have now revealed to News24 that they'll be making use of the main hall at the city's International Convention Centre from next year to accommodate all of its new festival goers. Now, from meeting some of the stars behind beloved productions including Dragon Ball Z, Harry Potter and One Piece, to snapping selfies with the movie-sized Chewbacca, Saturday's Comic Con was super fun, but also sold out, which meant the exhibition hall felt a little bit too claustrophobic at times for my liking. Still, we managed to find 5 minutes with Comic-Con Cape Town's marketing manager, Austin Kudumo.
A lot of things to do. We have a lot more interactive activations, more gaming tournaments, free-to-play areas, and more film and series guests. I mean, we had Vegeta just now. We have Ivana Lynch, who plays Blue the Love Good from Harry Potter. There's a lot more things to do. The community is growing.
Is this year the most that we've seen in terms of the fans coming out, in terms of ticket sales? I know last year you guys hit a record. Did you break it this year?
Well, to be honest with you, we have the same numbers like we did last year, so same capacity. I mean, the venue is smaller, so we can't go more than that. At the end of the day, we have to make this experience enjoyable for everyone, so we don't want it to be too packed. However, next year we're going to CTICC 1, which means we're going to have more interactive activations, more things to do, and we're going to be able to have a lot more people.
Because right now we're in the CTICC 2. How many stalls, how many vendors are we talking this year?
We're talking 250 plus vendors, so and just about 10 food trucks in the food truck village.
What is Austin's favorite thing about Comic-Con?
Austin's favorite thing about Comic-Con is definitely the artist alley. I'm a huge artist alley guy, so I got myself a few prints, and I also got myself a Falcon got signed by Vegeta, so that's super cool.
What does this all say to you about like this hidden culture in Cape Town that's been there for the longest time? It's no longer dormant. People are coming out, they're dressing up, they're showing the geeky, nerdy sides of all of us. We get to embrace that now. How cool is that?
I mean, it's nice to have a space where everyone can express themselves without fear of judgment. I mean, look around. If you were to wear a Spider-Man costume walking around at the mall, you were going to get Connie, right? But here at Comic-Con, you're the coolest person in the room. Everyone wants to take pictures with you. So it's nice to have everyone around, doing their thing without having to feel bad, for enjoying their fandom.
Both of these events, the one in Joburg as well, is owned by one company. You said Oryx Africa, I think it was. There's a lot of money, there's a lot of drive behind this. It's the biggest in Africa, and I think people forget that, right?
Yes. Comic-Con Africa and Comic-Con Cape Town are both organized by Oryx Africa. I mean, it's the biggest pop culture and gaming festival in the country, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, final question. I mean, we've seen Darth Sidious, Luna Lovegood, we've seen the voice behind, DBZ dubbed Vegeta, baby. Like, how do you top that next year?
I mean, it's all in the community's name, man. If the community says we want to have this guy, we'll try our best to make it happen. At the end of the day, we don't just bring these guys just because we love them. We bring them just because the community is asking for them.
Were you there? Did you enjoy it? Was it maybe too busy for your liking? Drop us a comment below.
And finally,
Ending off now with On This Day in SA History. It's courtesy the SA History Online database. And on this very day, the 4th of May 1925, Ruth First was born in Johannesburg. An anti-apartheid activist of note, First was first a journalist and partner to the former SACP leader Joe Slovo. Her political roots are found at Wits University, and there she helped found the Federation of Progressive Students during the height of apartheid. That was alongside one of her peers, Eduardo Motlane, a Mozambican revolutionary. First, though, in fear of both her and Slovo's safety, eventually fled to neighboring Mozambique, where she taught university students. Yet, in August of 1982, a parcel bomb sent by apartheid operatives sealed First's demise. Later, at the TRC hearings in the 90s, 2 men said to be responsible for First's murder were granted amnesty. In Roby's Pointless Brian Quiz for today, we asked at the beginning of the show, who's the Kaizer Chiefs legend who recently got a university's top honor? That's none other than Dr. Khumalo himself. The Tshwane University of Technology awarded Khumalo a Doctor of Philosophy in Science, Kinesiology and Coaching Science. With an illustrious football career spanning some 4 decades, the legend says, though, that his name will remain unchanged, saying, quote-unquote, "I'll always be Dr. Khumalo." And technically, well, he's not wrong. If one were to use his new official title, they still would not be incorrect, because after all, he is Dr. Khumalo. If this was your answer all along, congratulations. You scored that priceless prize of being the most informed person around the bright place. We're back with you on Wednesday at 7 p.m. as well as the following edition again on Thursday at 7 p.m. Back to regular programming for The Lead this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name's Graeme Robenheimer, and so long as there's trusted news first, we'll have The Lead.